What is up, everybody? My name is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the BellyUpSports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from, you'll find us there. Also, we have a full video version of this podcast that is available on BellyUp's YouTube channel and on GolzTV. So make sure you guys go on YouTube, search BellyUpSports, and you'll find our video right there in their full episode. And on GolzTV, GOZ.TV. That is how you can find our videos. And we do break down this complete episode into shorter videos, so that way it's a little bit more digestible, just in case. I know to each its own. And that is available also on GolzTV, but on Insert Name FC's YouTube channel as well. So if you guys want to go ahead and check us out there as well. And then follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, X at Insert Name FC. So this episode, it's going to be a really interesting one. We do have some talking points, some headlines to talk about. We're also going to, once again, U.S. men's national team call-ups. The friendlies have been concluded, so we're going to do a breakdown of it and share our thoughts on this U.S. men's national team call-up as we do get closer to the 2026 FIFA World Cup here in the United States. And we obviously, decision day did pass. Very interesting decision day, I will say, nonetheless. And so MLS Cup Playoffs. So we will preview the MLS Cup Playoffs as well in this episode. Give you guys players of the week. Give you guys some games to watch this weekend. And yeah, that's pretty straightforward, man. That's really what it's going to be about. So we'll see how this episode goes, but should be a good one. So with all that being said, let's take a break and then go right into headlines. Let me tell you guys about BellyUpSports. BellyUpSports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. BellyUpSports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys, first headline on the docket, and we got to talk about it. It is Serie. So if you guys remember, we've been putting a lot of focus on this whole, Miami, Barcelona versus Villarreal match and how controversial it has been in La Liga. Now, in the first topic that we had of this, the first time we mentioned that topic, we talked about that also AC Milan is having a match being played in Australia, which is going to be in February. And while I wasn't as vocal about it, and obviously there's some things maybe that you guys are wondering, like, why am I not as vocal of that as I was with Barcelona and Villarreal? One thing, that was going to be an AC Milan home game. So that's where it's very much, to me, is different. Some of you guys are probably like, how is that different? Well, Villarreal needs that home game. That home game is very important to Villarreal. Get any advantage as you can. I understand that Barcelona probably has a good record when it comes to playing in Villarreal, but still, when Villarreal goes into Miami, they're not going to be showered by Villarreal fans. They're going to be showered by Barcelona fans. And for this case, you have AC Milan and Como. Como is a really intriguing team. I think there's definitely slowly building a following for that club, but it's still not up to there as an AC Milan, especially with obviously a team that has a lot of international players. Ooh, sorry for yawning. And the reason, so that's why I'm a little bit different. Because yes, taking away a home match from AC Milan, while it still sucks for AC Milan and AC Milan fans, they're more of a global brand. They're more of a global club. So for them, it's going to still be a home match, very much so, for AC Milan. I don't know how big of the fandom is for AC Milan in Australia, but, obviously us knowing Stuart from, our friend Stuart, he is Australian and he supports Liverpool. So it's very much clear that there's going to be a fandom. If you were to say which club would have like a bigger fandom in Australia, like same thing if you were to talk about here in the U.S., there'd probably be more AC Milan fans than Como fans. So you would probably say it's safe to assume that there's going to be a lot of AC Milan fans than Como fans in Australia as well. Now, and I still think, either or. I'm still like, as much as I have spoken out about the whole Barcelona Villarreal game being played in Miami, like I still see the potential of what that can do. I still get all these things what La Liga is trying to do. It's not any different than what NFL and the MLB are doing with playing games overseas as well. Like it's not shocking. Like it's all about globalizing whatever sport you're trying to globalize. Even though some people are going to argue that especially football, it's already a global sport. Like there's nothing needed to like blow this game up as it is because it's already the world's game. And I get all those things, but if you're Serie A and you're La Liga and you're trying to gain more revenue, especially when, let's be honest, like at the end of the day, the Premier League is what's getting the money. Champions League is what's getting the money. As much as I love La Liga and I want to defend La Liga, as much as people love Serie A and will defend Serie A, like they're just not getting that revenue like Premier League is. And so this opportunity for Serie A is to them is big. It's about, once again, going global, especially going to Australia, a market that does have a lot of fandom. They also call football soccer as well. I just want to point that out. And it's just another region that they can reach to. And I think especially when you have AC Milan, which obviously already a big club, but Como, which is intriguing because of the fact that you got Cesc Fabregas managing this team, and there's some pretty interesting players to point out in that Como team as well, especially the way they've been playing lately this season. So I understand why Serie A and why AC Milan would want to go into this endeavor of going and playing in Australia. And then also, I believe there's going to be some Olympic Games, Winter Olympic Games, being played in San Siro. So this kind of works out to Milan's advantage to go to Australia and play over there while their venue is being utilized. So kind of another way to get more money, if you will, if you're AC Milan. But I also understand the backlash. I understand why people don't like this, and obviously the big factor is, especially if you're a Milan fan, if you're a season ticket holder for AC Milan matches, you're not going to be able to attend this match unless you go to Australia. Unless you book a ticket to go to Australia, that's the only way to do it. So I mean, so I get the fan perspective, the local fan perspective of the frustration of not being able to watch AC Milan play. Time zone probably sucks too, and I totally get that part. But I think at the end of the day, I understand. Like I get. At the end of the day, man, money is always just going to be a factor with this game. At this point, yes, the game has become a business. It's unfortunate, but that's really what it is. I don't know. I don't like at this like the argument that that this is a cash grab. Of course, it's a cash grab. Everything is a cash grab now these days. It's not. Nothing is going to be done for free for the sanctity. Like look at concerts. Like look, say what you want about the sport, but music, right? Music is vastly getting more criminally expensive. Even for like the smaller shows, it's getting ridiculously expensive. So like, it's funny. Like I think of that clip of Nirvana when they were interviewing Kurt Cobain, and he found out how much ticket prices was to go see Madonna. And I believe it was like $50, and they were flipping out on $50. And I mean, obviously, he didn't want to hear how much it costs to go see Nirvana. So like, this is just the reality of it. It is a cash grab. Everything is a cash grab. Everybody's trying to get a slice of the pie. It's no more the days of that. Like, like I would love for it to be about just the integrity of the game, but in reality money makes the world go round. And it's kind of crazy to say that with AC Milan being that they are as big as they are, but that's what it is, And trust me, I get it. I think it makes the most sense to have La Liga matches in Spain. It makes the most sense in the world to have Serie A matches in Italy. I get all those things. But unfortunately, this is not the world we live in. Now, like, don't get me wrong. I am not a fan of the overseas games that the NFL does. I'm not a fan of the overseas game that MLB does. Like for instance, today, Sunday, another London game was played. It was LA Rams versus Jacksonville Jaguars. Probably a better game than I'll say it was a better game for me just because I hate the Jacksonville Jaguars. But like, I mean, at the same time, like, it probably wasn't enjoyable to watch a team get blown out. Like it probably wasn't, and it probably isn't enjoyable either when a game is just field goals. And so like, once again, it just goes back to the narrative that NFL just doesn't send good games. Just there's never been. I have yet to have seen a game that I'm like, oh wow, this was worth it. Waking up at at 9 in the morning to watch this game. Like I still haven't had that sense that, um, for local, and I get it, the local fan perspective is just not is not what you want. Once again, that's a home game that someone wanted to go to. That is a home game, which I believe was for Jacksonville. Like a season ticket holder for Jacksonville Jaguars can't get that ticket because obviously, or they would have to fly to England to go watch that game, and they didn't. They can't attend it because once again, it's in England, and they probably put a lot of money on those season tickets to begin with, and now they're going to be one game short of their season ticket package. So like I get all the arguments as to why the frustration part. I understand the whole globalization part. Like I get money and all that, but it does suck. It does. I'm not disagreeing with you, especially if you're not happy with this. I get it, but at the same time, I also understand the business aspect of it and the opportunity that it could bring in for Serie. Now, like I said, people are not happy, and the newest person to speak out on this matter is Mike Magnan, who is the goalkeeper and captain of AC Milan. He has now joined along with Cesc Fabregas, who is the manager of Como, and Adrian Rabiot, his teammate in Milan, of sharing their discontent. And once again, it's just the whole argument that this is very much a Serie A financial interest that's being prioritized over competitive integrity. And the part of competitive integrity is just that you're taking away a home match from AC Milan. You're taking away Como away. Once again, there's not as many Como fans to begin with, but I guarantee you there is probably going to be a good percentage of Como, or a bigger percentage of Como fans going to Milan to go watch their team play against AC Milan in San Siro than they would be in Australia. So, like, and I'm not saying that like Fabregas is complaining about them not getting any sort of advantage because they're not. They're going into the San Siro, but at the same time, you're taking away a chance for fans, local fans, once again, fans from Como, to go to Milan and support their club in San Siro. So it's very fair arguments. And once again, AC Milan is the team that's going to be losing that home match. So despite the whole like the convenience of the whole Winter Olympics or whatever, I believe it's the Olympics. So I mean, it's February, so I'm assuming it's probably Winter Olympics. But like there at this point, like what can be done, and once again, like just like how it's very much it's going to happen. Barcelona's going to play Villarreal in Miami. This is very much going to happen. Like AC Milan is going to play Como, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's Serie A's call. At the end of the day, both the board of Como and the board of AC Milan agree to this. Like the players may be shocked about it, but at the end of the day, this is something that both boards knew about. They knew that this was happening. They agreed to the terms. They did all the logistics that needed to be done for this to happen. You can't plan this just willy-nilly. Like this is something that has been premeditated for quite some time to figure out all the logistics needed to make this match happen, to make sure that I believe it's going to be in Perth, Australia. Make sure that the fields are going to be ready. The stadium's going to have the infrastructure for all the fans that will be attending this match. Like all those things were already done before making the decision to make it happen. So, and then just once again, the perfect storm for them is the fact that Italy's hosting the Olympics, and San Siro will be the venue for some of the Olympic events. So, like, and once again, I'm this isn't me defending Serie A because I really don't want to defend them, especially what I'm about to read in a bit. But at the end of the day, like this, it's just the nature of the business, unfortunately. It really just comes down to that. And of course, obviously, Serie A doesn't want to hear that their players are disgruntled. They want to hear them loving the idea of going to Australia, all that good stuff. But unfortunately, like, when you hear criticism and, when it comes to this logic, uh, it's this isn't just a few people. It's not just few people, and I'm sure there's multiple people that feel the same way. They just haven't spoken out just yet. And so Serie CEO Luigi De Siervo, he responds to the criticism. Additionally, this is the response to Rabiot's criticism, which, like, once again, it falls under the lines of, once again, this is a cash grab. This isn't about what is competitively right for the sake of the league. So that within those contexts, this is what he is being spoken about. And so once again, this is directed towards what Rabiot said, nothing to do with Cesc Fabregas, and nothing that has to do with Maignan. But Rabiot forgets, like all footballers who earn millions of euros, that they're paid to do something, namely play football. He should be respectful of the money he earns and more accommodating of his employer, AC Milan, who accepted and pushed for this match to be played abroad. The organizational challenge is complicated. The flight hours are long, but you're traveling business class to the other side of the world, something teams regularly do. Top footballers whose salaries are commensurate with the effort they put in should understand better than others that this is a sacrifice that can be made. Essentially, and someone can correct me on, can probably maybe has a different viewpoint from what I just read or from this quote, but essentially what Luigi said to Rabiot was just to shut up and dribble. Like, you have the privilege to play this game, and it's right. He's right. They do have this privilege to play this game, because not many people can get to say can go out to the world and say, hey, I get paid to kick around a ball. I get paid to play a game, a kid's game that we played growing up. Like, I get paid to play this. Like, this is my job. This is my 9 to 5. Like, this is, some go to an office. My office is a locker room. Like, this is so he makes this point. It's like, oh yeah, you guys get paid, and it's at the end of the day, and it's unfortunate, but yes, you signed a contract. You signed a contract to that. You will do whatever AC Milan tells you to do in some aspect. I'm not quoting it correctly, but like, essentially, like, this is all part of your contract. Like, I understand that, yes, the traveling is going to suck. Yes, all these aspects. Once again, this is things that we talked about with the whole, Barcelona and Villarreal game being played in Miami. Those are all things that generally does suck. But at the end of the day, both these, in some even playing field, you can say, both are going through it. They're both going to have to endure the travel. They're both going to have to try to, get used to the time zone that is Australia. And the weather of Australia, what that weather is like, I don't know. I've never been to Australia. So, like, that's all going to encompass, but both are going to go through it. And I don't like the whole thing about you make millions of euros to namely play a game. Like, you should be respectful of the money that he earns. Like, look, and I think this is just something coming from my time in the Marine Corps. Like, yes, my job was to follow all lawful orders that were given to me and execute. That's very true. But I can still complain. Everyone has the right to complain. At the end of the day, complaining is still very much a whole thing. Like, the Marines complain a lot. I can tell you for a fact, because I was in the Marines and I complained a lot. Like, you can be disgruntled. That is perfectly fine. And what these guys are, they're very much disgruntled. They don't want to go to Australia. But guess what? But you are absolutely right, Luigi. At the end of the day, if they tell the players that they have to go in, get on that plane, fly to Australia, they're gonna have to fly on that plane and go to Australia. At the end of the day, that's what they did, because that, unfortunately, at the end of the day, you signed that contract and you agreed to the terms of that contract. And when you agreed to those terms, that meant that you would also abide to whatever is asked of you as a player of AC Milan, as a player of Como. You're absolutely right. So it is what it is, man. So there is that, man. So, all right, guys. Next headline, kind of sticking with Serie A. Juventus is being investigated for financial irregularities from 2022 to 2025. They're going under investigation again. Now, if you guys don't remember, AC Milan was under investigation for financial fair play, and it found it to be accurate that they were in fact violating the rules of financial fair play. With that being said, what ended up happening was that Juventus received a point deduction. I believe it was like 12 to 15 point deduction, which because of that point deduction dropped them out of the Champions League. Dropped them out of a Champions League spot, and I believe it dropped them. I don't recall if it was the Europa League or Europa Conference League, but they dropped them down to like one of those leagues. And so it did take it was obviously a very you would think that because that happened, that a lot of clubs would tighten it up when it comes to financial fair play, and it actually hasn't really it didn't really do anything at all, because there were still clubs that were very much violating financial fair play. And so, Manchester City are still going through their investigation. You're still hearing about, PSG probably got themselves in the clear now, with the whole financial fair play, just because of the whole, look how well they're doing with their contracts. We've already talked about this plenty of times about the contracts of the PSG players that they have now currently. So that's kind of like where it's a little bit different, but still there hasn't really been much, at least as I feel, because I mean Chelsea's still out there buying players. Manchester United has bought a lot of players. So like teams are still buying, and it's, once again, it doesn't seem like whatever financial fair play is, whatever the rule is for financial fair play, it doesn't seem like it's really being enforced as we thought it was going to be. Because once again, we still don't know what's going to we haven't had any updates from the whole Manchester City thing. At this point, I feel like this is going to be a giant slap on the wrist. But then you have clubs like Juventus that are getting hit with this, and it kind of is what it is for them. Now, UEFA is not going to come up with a decision until spring of 2026. So next year in spring is when it kind of similar to when the last time Juventus got hit with their violations. That's when they announced what was going to happen to them. I think it sucks for Juventus, because I think at this point they're trying to find their groove, trying to get back to being on top of Serie A, and it hasn't really been working out to full fruition for them. It's been rough. I think that they've been trying to do their best to stay within the rules of financial fair play, and you could clearly tell that it's definitely been hurting them more than it has, because they just haven't been able to get the players of quality that they would want to normally get. And so I think that that's kind of like, now they have some good players. They have plenty of quality on that team. But I think, with that and the rest of Italy kind of that has caught up to them, Inter Milan is always going to be in play. Napoli is in play. AC Milan, the way they've been looking this season, are in play. So it's like Juventus is kind of just now in the whole middle of all that battle. So, as far as player acquisitions, maybe they're just not doing enough, or not going after the right players to make that impactful. Maybe they do have to take notes from PSG, see what they did in order to get themselves back on top. So and I think if you get it hurts, right? The part that's going to hurt is if you don't have Champions League, because Champions League is going to be important on how to acquire players, because that's a way to entice players to come to Juventus besides the name of Juventus. So I mean, you can kind of say similar to what's happening with AC Milan this season, where they don't have Champions League. They don't really have to play for anything besides Serie A and Coppa Italia. But I think Juventus, it's a different story. AC Milan's been trying to rebuild to get back to being that dominant team in Italy. Juventus has been dominant for years, and it maybe was because of financial fair play that they were actually able to have the run that they had, seasons before. So yeah, it is rough. It is rough. It is rough to watch how Juventus has been playing. This is the old lady, right? The team that a lot of people love. When you think of Juventus, you think of Zinedine Zidane. You think of the endless amount of legends that has played for that shirt. And yeah, I think if they get hit with another penalty, another point deduction, it probably is gonna hurt them even more again. More so probably than the whole ref paying scandal. More so than that, because what happened to them was that they got relegated. They got relegated to the Serie B, but you still had your players. So you still had like a very top quality club. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. Hopefully they're in the clear, because I don't know. I don't know if they can recover if they go through another investigation and they find out another point deduction. I don't know if they can. I don't know if I think it'll hurt their brand a lot more than it has already. So yeah, there's that. Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip, using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of BellyUpSports. All right, the final headline, and kind of, it's funny. The theme of these is we have Serie A in Australia, a Serie A team, and now we're going to go back with an Australian. Big Ange has gotten the axe at Nottingham Forest. Ange has now been sacked by Nottingham, and it was immediately after the 3-0 loss to Chelsea. Mind you, since Ange has taken over Nottingham, they have no victories in 8 matches. 2 draws to be specific, but they also went through a gauntlet of teams, to be fair. Now, you're probably wondering about Ange, because many of you are probably wondering, I think this was the guy that came in from the previous manager. And you're right, because Nottingham also let go of Nuno Espiritu Santo this season as well. So, with that being said, Nottingham is essentially looking for their 3rd manager this season. Now, the names that are being linked to Nottingham is Roberto Mancini, who obviously has Premier League experience, managed Manchester City, the beginning of Manchester City with the oil money, and Sean Dyche, who managed Everton. So 2 guys with Premier League experience. Obviously, Roberto Mancini, good experience in the Premier League, and also was the manager that got Italy to win the Euro. So probably the more enticing of it. But I'll be honest with you, it's probably going to be Dyche, Sean Dyche. Is it Dyche or is it Dyke? I don't know, but it's going to be more likely him. He does have a history with Nottingham Forest. He was part of their academy system in over there. And I mean, if someone knows about struggling clubs, he's probably the guy. So, I think this season at this point, it's about survival. And I mean, Sean was with Everton, was sacked back in January. So I mean, like I said, not good Premier League experience, but understands the Premier League very well and understands being on that part of the table. Which maybe I should check. I'm just assuming that they're not on the good side of the table. So let me just double check to see where Nottingham is at. Yeah, Nottingham is at 18th place. So they are definitely on the bad side of the table. So they need to maybe in all honesty, maybe it didn't make sense to fire Nuno Espiritu. Honestly, I don't even know who would want this job. like maybe Sean would take it just because of the fact that like it's better than not having a job at all. But like like whatever this owner is doing at Nottingham, like to kind of these early sackings. Like I get that same thing happened at Bayer Leverkusen with Eric Ten Hag, but like I don't know, and it doesn't seem like many of the Nottingham players were like wanting Ange to get fired. So this is like it's just a bizarre event to happen. It's just weird. But we'll see. Like I said, I think it's gonna be Dyke. I think it's gonna be him. I think he takes over as the manager of Nottingham. I don't think Roberto Mancini really is interested in the situation. Like I said, you're going in for your third manager this season. So like that's a red flag, just period. So we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, that is the headlines, and we'll go right into the U.S. men's national team. So obviously, U.S. men's national team, October, it's done for them. The matches have happened, and obviously, it was a draw and a win. And we'll get right into the nitty gritty of it. So the first game was a 1-1 draw against Ecuador. It was USA had 66% of the possession and also outshot Ecuador 11-8, 5 shots on target to Ecuador's 4 shots on target. I will tell you this. For Ecuador, this is actually kind of how they want to play. They like to play defensively. They're very good defensively. They have a lot of good defensive players. Mind you, they were without certain players on the defensive side, but still, once again, mentality and approach is still going to be there, and they played it to a key. They're not going to want the possession. They want to kind of just tire you out and then take advantage when they can, because while they're really good defensively, they're not very good at scoring, or at least they're not well known for scoring. So a 1-1 draw, which I believe Tactical Manager predicted a 1-1 draw. So it kind of like makes sense that this is kind of how it went down. I think Ecuador was a good challenge for the U.S. men's national team, just to see a team that maybe plays a little bit more on the defensive side, and see what you do when you make those decisions, when you have the ball a little bit longer than the other side does. I will say, in the 24th minute, there was a goal scored by Ecuador. It was by Ener Valencia, who I can't believe is still playing. but still looking great, looking fantastic. And I will say, the goal, I'm not putting that on Freeze. It's more so just a very costly defensive error that happened, and I think that's just really what the theme was in that point. But I think once again, they tightened it up, they corrected that, and I will say the possessions that I saw from the U.S. men's national team, it looked good. Like I liked seeing how they played with the ball. It didn't look like they were just being reckless with the ball. I think they were making good decisions. Obviously, the execution side is still just a question that lingers for me. But I think if anything from this game, I think it solidified more that Folarin Balogun just fits to what Pochettino wants to do with his U.S. men's national team, as he did score the tying goal in the 71st minute. So for the lineup, we had at goalkeeper we had Freeze, who actually played both matches. The back line, it was a back three. It had Ream, Richards, and Robinson in the back line. In the midfield, quote unquote midfield, the wing backs was Max Arfson and Tim Weah. As wing backs in the midfield, you had Morris and Tessman as your, I guess you can say, your dual sixes, or dual, your midfield, right? And then the front three, which you could say are other wingers, or can you say as two cams and a striker, which I think two cams and a striker is probably more accurate to say, especially with how you're utilizing Max Arfson and Tim Weah. It was Malik Tillman and Weston McKennie as your cams. So you had like essentially four midfielders, if you will, and Balogun up front as the lone striker. The substitutions that did come into this game was Freeman, Luna, McKenzie, Pulisic, Roldan, and Wright, all in that exactly in that order. But yeah, I think the team looked really good. Like I said, I kind of like the decisions that they made. Yeah, I really have no complaints. Yes, it's a draw. I think at this point, especially when we're talking about friendlies, and I was more like I said, I was more critical about the Gold Cup because that was our last competitive match before the World Cup. Like that was a game where like it's something or you're playing for something. At this point, maybe you're just playing for improved like ranking in FIFA, but in reality, it doesn't really matter for the US just because of the fact that they're going to be in Pot A. Like in Pot that they're going to be Pot A in Group A. Like I already know where the US is going to be. They don't have to worry about playing against a team from Pot A. They're going to play Pot B, Pot C, Pot D. Like they're going to be in a more they're just going to be in a better situation because they are the host nation. And so that doesn't guarantee that the team in Pot B is not going to be, B, C, and D aren't going to be good opponents. I'm just saying that, like, as far as, like, worrying about FIFA rankings, because that's where the pots would matter, it was because of the FIFA rankings, it doesn't really matter because the U.S. is going to be in Pot A. And so, like, because of that, like, I'm not really going to be heavily critical about these matches. The only thing I will be critical is how they're playing. Like, that's what's going to be mattering to me is, are we, like, out? Maybe I want to see a little more of this player. Like, once again, this is now, we're now in the process of building your 26-man roster for the FIFA World Cup. You need to find out, trim the fat. You're probably going to bring in players that are going to be head scratchers, but it's not because you're bringing them just to bring them in. You want to basically bring them in and be like, yeah, I kind of figured that they're not going to be good, and we won't see another day of the light of day from them. And so, Miles Robinson, I think that's kind of where I'm at with him. You brought him in just to see what is he gonna do. Didn't help with that goal. I think he was part of that. I can't remember at this point, but he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great either. And so I think at this point you're like, okay, now I know about Miles Robinson. Good, but obviously, once again, I'm not Pochettino. I don't know what's going on with him. But that was the first game, which was once again a 1-1 draw against Ecuador, a team that's already qualified for the World Cup. Actually, believe both these teams are actually qualified for the World Cup. The next opponent was a 2-1 win against Australia. USA had 64% of possession. Once again, possession is really what Pochettino is trying to build and try to instill confidence in. And I think you're seeing that more and more with this team. The U.S. outshot Australia 11-9, 4-3 with shots on target. The first goal was actually from Jordan Blas of Australia in the 19th minute, just a careless mistake, and I believe it was from the midfield, and it ended up, once again, it went in the back of the net. Not blaming Matt Freese for that one either. But the U.S. did respond with Haji Wright scoring a goal in the 33rd minute and the 51st minute. The starting lineup for this one, once again, they went back to that 3-4-3 formation. Matt Freese, like I said, was the starting goalkeeper. You had Mark McKenzie starting with Chris Richards and Miles Robinson as your back three. Your midfield. This time you had Tim Weah on the other side. You had Christian Roldan and James Sands, and then you had Freeman on the other side as the other wing back. This time your forwards, your two cams was Weston McKennie and Christian Pulisic this time, and you had Haji Wright playing up top. The thing that's mentioned on this one was Christian Pulisic was pulled early from this game because he had a hamstring injury. Diego Luna does come in. You had then Tanner Tessman also come in. Balogun came in after one point. And then you had Brendan Aronson, Aiden Morris, and Max Arfson coming in as the substitutes for that game. And I think in this one, I think it was a good performance. U.S. did a really good job once again with the possessions. I think they came up with good ideas and were being at least smart with the decision play. Obviously, once again, goal scoring, just being more proactive. But I think Haji Wright, once again, he's been one of the guys in form when it comes to playing abroad. And this once again, to me, the championship is very much a good league. Like, yes, would you like to see these guys performing in the Premier League? Would you guys like to see these guys performing in Serie A and the top flight of Europe? Yes, but the championship is a very physical league. Championship is actually honestly not a bad place for nines. I mentioned it with Josh Sargent. I praised Josh Sargent, but unfortunately, he just doesn't play well for the U.S. Haji Wright, on the other hand, gets his chance in this one. and I like it. I liked how he performed. I think the goals that he scored were very good. I think it was very what you expect from a nine, just putting himself out there and just scoring the goal. And I think I liked how he performed, and I think that he definitely solidified himself as one of the three options at striker. Obviously, I want to see Ricardo Pepi at some point because I think he adds another element of that style of a different type of nine, more physical, more proactive, more tenacious kind of nine. But still, like I think Balogun, Haji Wright, and Pepi can be a really good combination play, especially however you want to utilize that 3-4-3 formation. Christian Pulisic's injury is just going to be a concern for me. And I'll go right into the takeaways from this one. But yeah, so I think a good win against Australia. I think you're kind of seeing kind of like an identity now with the team, and that's what I like. We talked about last episode about what the quote that Pochettino had, which was I forgot it now, but obviously it was about having hunger and having fight, and that is exactly how these guys are playing, and I actually like that. That's what we're seeing from this team. My takeaways: 3-4-3. It's gonna work. I think once again, you give these guys time with Pochettino. Give them enough experience with the tactics, with the formation, what Pochettino wants to do, and they buy into what Pochettino wants to do. And I think that it really is much working. I think it's going to be effective, and if they can get in perfectly, not perfect, but have it dialed in come 2026, I think the U.S. is going to make some surprises in the World Cup. Now, yes, it sucks. Christian Pulisic did get a hamstring injury, and he's looking to be out for 3 weeks. So that is a big loss for U.S. and from AC Milan. For people that are complaining about like, oh, we shouldn't have had him play, like this is what happens with friendlies. Like, look, injuries happen, just period. If it didn't, like the thing I'm worried about with Christian Pulisic is this. My concern is that I hope that he goes back to his form. Like I don't like, and I'm not saying like, oh, as soon as he comes back, he's already scoring goals for AC Milan. I mean, like we need it because last year, kind of similar, was really effective for AC Milan, and then kind of went quiet after he started getting hit with some injuries. So I need him to probably mentally prepare himself a little bit better and bounce back. Like, because I think once again, this is the way I'm going to word it now is, since all that's happened this summer, this is the Christian Pulisic's fuck you tour. Like, this is now him, all the talking heads that talk trash to Christian Pulisic, that said all that they needed to say about Christian Pulisic for opting out of Gold Cup, for his interviews, for the documentary, all those things. This is the fuck you tour. And this, sorry for cussing, Kelsey. And this is also directed to me, because I have been critical of Christian Pulisic. But I've also never have changed what I've said about Christian Pulisic. Like, I've said it, like, he is our best player. He's not the best vocal leader. He has no business of being a captain. Like, I think that just because he's our best player doesn't mean that he needs to be our captain. I think that there's, honestly, I should add this also to my takeaways. Chris Richards, captain. If Tyler Adams isn't going to be fit enough to play in the World Cup, Chris Richards should definitely be looked at as someone to wear the armband, because I think that he is a very good leader. I think he takes a lot of ownership. He takes pride. He says all the things that you want to hear from a captain. And so, I mean, to be honest, man, like Chris Richards, I think I would not be against him being captain of the U.S. men's national team. I think he would be a perfect candidate for captain of the U.S. men's national team. Tim Ream obviously is always going to be in discussion for captain. I think Christian Pulisic, mainly just because he's the best player on the team, doesn't mean he's the best. He should be the captain. And I think Tyler Adams, number one to me, captain. I've always said that about Tyler Adams. I think he's just a great reflection of what the U.S. men's national team needs as a leader. But I think Chris Richards, I think we're finding out that Chris Richards should be Captain America. So that was my takeaway. And then Balogun and Haji Wright shine, which is good, because especially for those guys that are worried that Patrick Agyemang is gonna rear his face at some point. But I think I will say, with Haji Wright, we can still see Agyemang. I don't think that this isn't the end of Agyemang. Once again, I like the idea of Agyemang. I just need to be executed. But I think with Haji Wright, the beauty of Haji Wright is that he doesn't necessarily have to be the 9. Like, he could play on the wing. So he's a little bit versatile. So I think he will actually be, especially that back end of the roster. Like he is a guy that, hey, I don't like. He's not just going to be a 9. Like I got to play him on the wing. I can kind of maybe he can play in that cam role for, especially with the 4-3-3. So it's not crazy to keep Haji Wright in the conversation and still have Pacha Ajiman. So I think that it's a good place to be if you're Haji Wright, because you're performing. You're going to be under Pacha's eye. It's going to be interesting, that back end side, who the guys are kind of the fringe players, how they can get into the conversation for the U.S. men's national team, because it's going to be tricky near the end. I mean, the November call-ups were not that far away. Obviously, they're going to be playing against Paraguay. I forgot the other team, but it's going to be an interesting one to see who he brings in for that one. I don't think we're going to see it's not like we're going to see like the same. I don't expect to see Christian Pulisic, just because I believe he will just be coming back from AC Milan and kind of seeing how Pochettino approaches those guys. I believe he won't call them up just to let them focus on recovery more. So, I mean, we could see Christian Pulisic not there. So that could open up some opportunities for some guys to go in. Once again, at this stage, it is very much, it's not about rotating the guys completely, but bringing in guys here and there to see why should I try to bring you in? And if you can showcase it, cool. If not, you kind of validated why I didn't call you up initially. So I think that's going to be kind of intriguing for the U.S. men's national team as they go on. Once again, these friendlies are important because they're trying to figure out who's going to be on that 26-man roster for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. These are all what the strategy comes into play now. It isn't so much about, we got to win these friends. Now, winning is great. I'm not against winning. This isn't me saying that I don't want to win. But when games like these that really hold no significance, especially, once again, like FIFA rankings doesn't hurt the U.S. men's national team right now. They already qualified for the World Cup, and they're going to be in Pot A. So, I think that, if you're the U.S., there's no real worry. It's just kind of just figuring out who's going to be on your line, who's going to be on your roster come 2026. That's really all that it comes down to it. So if I had to grade this October call up, I'll say a B. I'll say a B. I think we had a good performances. Obviously, probably could do a little more. I think they're still kind of figuring things out. But I think we're seeing clearly some guys that should be on the roster. Obviously, I would love to give it an A, but no, actually, I really don't. I think that I just want to give them a B. I think this is actually, it's a commendable call up. I think Poch's ideas are now being implemented and being bought in, and so I really have nothing negative to say aside from it just sucks that Christian Pulisic got hurt. But aside from that, I think this was a good call up in general, and I'm not at all disappointed by this call up. So I like where it's going until November. All right.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of BellyUpSports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
MLS Cup Playoffs. The MLS Cup is now set. The stage is set in the MLS Cup, and we got to talk about it. All right. So I will say, I'll start things off. My Houston Dynamo obviously are not here because injuries probably didn't help. I don't know about the formation. Some people are gonna probably complain about the lineups or anything like that, but I don't know. I think the Dynamo were very much carried by Jack McGlynn. I think we very much were, but yeah, they're not here. I think it's gonna be interesting what Pat Onstad and Asher do in this time frame. I don't think Greg Olson. Yeah. Is it Greg Olson? No, not Greg Olson. Ben Olsen. Jesus Christ. I don't think Ben Olsen. I'm sorry. I'm also watching like the American League Championship Series, and I just saw a guy in a bedazzled Toronto Blue Jays hat. That was weird. Anyways, Ben Olsen. I don't think he's gonna get fired. I don't think he should. But we're kind of the seat's getting hot, not just for him. Pat Onstad and Asher, I think the seat's very much hot for them. Because I mean, you had 2 good years with the Dynamo making the playoffs, going far, at least the first year, winning also the Open Cup, and then you get a round 1 exit in a really embarrassing way. You move on from Ache and Coca Carrasquilla, 2 really important players, and honestly, I don't think you really did enough to. I'm not saying replace Ache because I think it's damn near impossible to replace a guy like Ache and like Coca Carrasquilla. And this isn't me glazing Ache by any means. Like I do think that was like we've never had the Houston Dynamo have genuinely never had a player of that caliber, like Ache, and I think that. I think hindsight's always 20/20. Like I understand, like it's a lot of money for an older player, but I think it was very much worth. I think it was worth it. I think it would have been worth it to keep Ache here, but at the same time, like you know, you're not doing anything to really improve this team. Ponce is good, man. Like I don't have any issues with Ponce, but it's just we can't get him the ball. We just can't. We just can't get him the ball. And what's weird, the crazy part is this is essentially the same thing that happened with Sebastian Ferreira. Like I think that it's the same exact thing. I don't think they're the same exact player, but when you just can't get him in the ball in the opportune possessions the opportune places that they need him to be at, like he's just not going to pay off for you. I think it did suck not to have Inali and Nelson Quiones. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm like kind of holding off on firing Ben Olsen, because I think once again when you have a healthy Nelson Quiones and a healthy Lawrence Inali, I think that changes a lot, and I think that opens up any more possibilities for the midfield when you have those guys on the wings. Defensively, they weren't terrible. I think the players they had were fine. It's just that they weren't able to really do anything on the attacking side. That it kind of tired out the defense. So I don't think it's necessarily on them, but I think there needs to be some things to be addressed. There's a lot of guys that need to be moved on from the Houston Dynamo, and make some really refreshing changes to the club to make them a little bit more competitive. But that's just me, and I think maybe it's a good thing they didn't make the playoffs, because this would have just justified that whatever they thought they were doing was the right thing, and I don't think it was. But I will say. The seat's very much hot for Pat Onstad, for Ben Olsen, and for Asher. I think that the seat's hot. Like they need to right the ship back, put them back in the playoff position, because to have 2 good seasons, well, one really good season, one like but at least we made the playoffs, and this season that was just really rough to see, especially when you win without such a long time without winning a game. You know, these are the kind of things that. Sorry for yawning. If you're the owner, you start questioning. So that's my thoughts. That's just my thoughts. But anyways, let's go. Let's not talk about a team that didn't make the playoffs. Let's talk about the teams that did qualify. But we'll start things off. In case you guys don't know how the playoff format works for MLS, it's gonna be really weird. It's gonna be weird. All right. Especially if you're a fan of European football, and the playoffs the idea of a playoff just sounds so foreign to you. So this is definitely going to be weird. But if you're an American sports fan who does know a thing or two about playoffs, this is still going to sound pretty fucking weird. So sorry for cussing, Kelsey. So The 8th and ninth place team of the Eastern Western Conference. Okay, so bracket is split. The bracket is split to two conferences, Eastern and Western Conference. Just how the tables have been split for Eastern and Western Conference this entire time in the MLS season. So those teams all the way down. So 8th and ninth place qualify for a wild card play-in game. I say wild card for people that know American sports. They know what wild card means. For people that aren't familiar with American sports, it is a play-in game. Essentially, it is a play-in game. So 8th and ninth place have play a play-in game to decide who is going into the first round of the MLS Cup Playoffs, which they will be facing against the first place team of their respective conference. So in the wild card, you have Portland Timbers hosting Real Salt Lake, and you have the Chicago Fire hosting Orlando City. And we'll start with Portland Timbers and Real Salt Lake. Portland Timbers, they haven't been good lately. They haven't really been good in these recent games, which worries me. Real Salt Lake isn't any better, but yeah, like this is going to be a rough game. I'm going to predict it's going to penalties. Like I really do believe it's going to go to penalties. Now I will say Portland was in this same situation last year, except they were the 9th seed, but they got to host their wild card game because Vancouver. This is gonna sound so funny. The Vancouver Whitecaps had a monster truck rally, and so they couldn't reschedule the monster truck rally. So then MLS decided to play it in Portland. So, yeah, that's. I'm not making this up. That's exactly what happened. So Portland ended up hosting it, which they ended up getting completely obliterated by Vancouver. So I think this time around, maybe they don't want that to happen. But like I said, both these teams haven't been really good. But I will say the X factor for Real Salt Lake is definitely Diego Luna. So if Diego Luna can have a good game, I think that changes everything for them. I think that he could be the spark for this team. It is Portland, though. I know Portland hasn't been a fortress as it used to be, but it still very much is a tough place to play in, especially in a playoff atmosphere. So, but I'm going to give it to Real Salt Lake. I think Real Salt Lake can beat Portland. I just don't think Portland's really been that good. Not saying that Real Salt Lake is any better, but if I had to pick between, especially going into Pens, I think Real Salt Lake is probably the one that advances on. So that's what I have taking on San Diego FC in the round one. For Chicago Fire and Orlando's going into Chicago. Obviously, that's already an elemental advantage if you're the Chicago Fire. Greg Berhalter, man, I think that this is definitely a positive note for him to get the Chicago Fire in the wildcard round of the MLS playoffs. So I think that especially from where Chicago was last year. So I think this is a good place for them. Orlando is a pretty good team. I think very good defensively. Can definitely come in bunches when it comes to goal scoring. Chicago is interesting, man. I'm really intrigued on how this game's gonna go. If I had to pick between the two, I think the weather's gonna. Let me see. I need to figure this out. Let me see. I need to go to good old Foot Mob. Fixtures. No, that's not where I want to go. I guess it is where I want to go. There it goes. You know what? Yeah, give me Chicago. I think they're coming. They're in better form. I think confidence right now is kind of low for Orlando. So give me the Chicago Fire. So I have the Chicago Fire taking on Philadelphia Union in round one of the playoffs. Now, this could have changed. I'm not going to give an update because by the time the episode drops, the wildcard round is going to be played on Wednesday. So I'm not going to make any changes like that. So that's who I'm predicting right now. I'm predicting Real Salt Lake, and I'm predicting Chicago Fire to win their wildcard matches. Could be wrong, but I don't really think it's going to change my prediction as far as how round one of the playoffs goes. So we'll go right into it. So round one, I'm going to tell you right now, this is where it gets weird. So in round one of the playoffs, it is a best of 3 series. So for people that know about American sports, you guys know best of 3. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with American sports, best of 3 means first team to win 2 games advances to the next round. So you might play all 3 games, you might only play 2. In this setting, you're going to play home and away, and then obviously the last match will be the higher seed gets the home game. Just so we know. There. We'll start things off with the Western Conference, just because we started with the Western Conference last time with the wildcard round. Western Conference. So we got first seed San Diego FC going up against my prediction, which is Real Salt Lake. Now, San Diego, new team, new kids on the block, got the first seed in the MLS Cup Playoffs. They're really good. And Andres Dyer should get a fair shot for MVP, but let's be honest, he's not going to win it. But, with Chucky Lozano, very good experience all around. Mikey Vargas looking like a really good coach in MLS, just has the team playing in the right setting. I think San Diego is going to be exciting to watch in the playoff atmosphere sense. Snapdragon Stadium is such a beautiful stadium. So, and I just I'm not really a big fan of Real Salt Lake. So either way, and it doesn't really matter, Portland or Real Salt Lake, it doesn't matter. I'm giving it to San Diego. I think San Diego wins it and moves on to the quarterfinals. Yeah, it is quarterfinals. Next matchup is we have Vancouver Whitecaps taking on second place Vancouver Whitecaps taking on 7th place FC Dallas. Vancouver Whitecaps is probably the most complete team in Major League Soccer. Well, they're one of the most complete teams in Major League Soccer. Great attack, highest goal scoring attack, and a really good defense. Definitely one of the best defenses in MLS. One of the highest goal differentials in MLS. So I think that they're just all around just a really good team. And I'm hoping that they can kick it into second gear in the playoffs. They're going to go up against FC Dallas. FC Dallas, I don't know. They're not bad, but they're not good either. It's kind of weird. Obviously, 7th place is probably fitting to where they were in the standings. Can be overwhelming. I mean, Musa is probably like the biggest thing to mention, Musa and Farrington. But aside from that, they're just not there's nothing really that scares you when it comes to them. I think Vancouver, as long as they can keep them quiet on the defensive side and then, let their goal scorers take advantage. Also, we should probably mention that Thomas Mueller plays for Vancouver. They find their opportunities and they score their goals. And I think this could be a really big statement for Vancouver as they move on to the next round. I am picking Vancouver. I don't care that I'm picking the higher seed. FC Dallas is just not that good. I think it's great that they made some playoffs, but I just don't think they're good enough this year just yet to be competing, at least going far in the playoffs. So I'm going with Vancouver. I think they're one of the best teams in MLS and should definitely be going pretty far in the MLS Cup playoffs. The next matchup is 3rd place Los Angeles FC taking on 6th place Austin FC. Look, I'm going to sound like a massive hater because I'm a Houston Dynamo fan, but Austin FC has also just not been good and not been great. Have not been good, and they're not terrible. They're just very middle of the row. Honestly, I think MLS needs, whenever they, and hopefully they do eventually, I mean, they're going to make some changes. I believe that, obviously they're going to be changing the calendar to be more accurate towards the European calendar. At the same time, this playoff format needs to change. It's just not good. We have too many playoff teams, in my opinion. We need to shrink it down to let's do 5. Let's do MLB style, right? 5 teams from each conference moves to the playoffs. We'll have a wild card game, top 3. I think that would be better. It can't be more than half the league making the playoffs. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, so Austin FC really not that much better. LAFC, very strong team. They moved on for Olivier Giroud, and got another. Probably arguably an even better player in Heung-min Son, who really has been really great for the team. And you still have Denny Bouanga, who did compete for the Golden Boot. And I think that this is I think LAFC is going to be a really strong team. Austin FC. Well, I will point out Austin FC did beat LAFC. They also didn't have Danny Belonga, but that's not important, or Heung-min Son. But yeah, LAFC has a lot to. Once again, you have Heung-min Son, you have Danny Belonga, and of course, this is going to be the last season of Steve Cherundolo as LAFC coach. So I think that there's a lot riding on for LAFC to go far in the MLS Cup playoffs. So once again, I'm just going to do the boring pick, and I'm going to pick LAFC, the higher seed, to move on to the next round, because they are very much better than Austin FC. Like, Austin FC, just be happy you got here. Like, I'm not a big fan of Estevez. Like, I'm not a fan of their coach. So yeah. Yeah, that's it. LAFC moving on. And then the last matchup in the round one, we got Minnesota United, 4th seed Minnesota United going against 5th seed Seattle Sounders. I would say 4th and 5th seed are always going to be at least more of an equal matchup, and it doesn't change that at all in this case. This is where I'm going to pick I'm not going to pick the higher seed. I think Seattle is really good. Minnesota's a really weird team, and that's probably like the one thing I will give them. But Seattle, they have just flipped the switch, man. They look really good. And the thing about them, Seattle in the playoffs, they are a team that goes very far in the playoffs. So all they need to do is get in, and they'll go far. And I think right now, Minnesota United is just one of those teams that probably doesn't have like everything just yet. And I think Seattle can definitely can take advantage of that. I think that they're really good right now. So I think that they're in a good position. Once again, they're just built for the playoffs. So I think they can go very much far and win once again and go. Maybe even win the contenders for MLS Cup. You never know with this team. They're just built. They're built for the playoffs. I mean, they won the Leagues Cup this year. They have now won everything that you can win in the MLS, outside of winning obviously the FIFA Club World Cup. So I think that they're going to be a very good team. They're going to be a very scary team. Could be a good dark horse pick in the playoffs. But that is the Western Conference. Eastern Conference, we have the Philadelphia Union taking on who I predict is the Chicago Fire. Philadelphia Union is, in fact, the most complete team in MLS. They have a great coach. They have a great defense. They have a good attack. Like, this team is very much built for this year. They won the Supporter Shield, and that's probably where you're gonna probably end up having those. Is this the Supporter Shield curse? Could at some point come into play, but I don't think with this one. I think they're levels above Chicago Fire. And like I said, for Chicago Fire, I think this has been an impressive season, and I think they're just gonna get better. So, but yeah, I think Philadelphia Union. It just seems like they should be the team that makes it to the MLS Cup, and they should be the team that wins it. So, like, I think Philadelphia Union is going to be really good, and I don't think they're going to be slipping up at any time, at any point, at least not this early in the MLS Cup playoffs. The next round is FC Cincinnati taking on the Columbus Crew. I am so excited. I'm excited, but at the same time disappointed because I wish this was a little bit further into the playoffs. But we are getting the Hell's Real Derby. We are guaranteed 2 matches of the Hell's Real Derby in the MLS Cup playoffs. FC Cincinnati, after losing Lucho Acosta, you think that this team wasn't going to be the same without their star 10. You're wrong, because they went and got Evander from Portland, and they look even, I would probably say, if not the same, better. They have looked really solid. Evander, you could probably make an argument for maybe MVP. No, probably not. But they look really good. They're a very strong team. I think, Noonan and the guys are definitely going to be a threat in the playoffs. And Columbus Crew, look, it wasn't the season as beautiful as you were hoping it to be for Columbus, but at the end of the day, you still have Wilfred Nancy, and I think, and you still have a great group of players. Maybe not on the finishing at the 9 spot, but you still have a very well-rounded team. I think that's and then once again, when it comes to derbies, it doesn't really matter where you finish and where you finish in the standings. It's going to be a battle. I think that this is going to be a really good one. But I think FC Cincinnati can overcome it. I don't think Columbus Crew is as strong as they normally are. Like, once again, it's going to take a masterclass from Wilfred Nancy to really put down this FC Cincinnati team. But it is doable. I just don't see it happening just yet. But yeah, so I got FC Cincinnati moving on. And then we have Inter Miami taking on Nashville SC. These teams have a little bit of history with each other at this point. Since Messi has come to the league, I think that they've had some pretty good history. Inter Miami, obviously, last year, best team in MLS history, highest points in MLS history, Supporter Shield winners, qualifier for the FIFA Club World Cup for some weird reason as the host city / winners of the Supporter Shield, and got eliminated in the first round by Atlanta United with a interim manager and having them sell their 2 best players. That's a tough pill to swallow if you're Inter Miami. I think Inter Miami has wised up. On top of that, you are talking about Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba retiring at the end of the season. You brought in Rodrigo De Paul for a reason. On some bullshit. Sorry for cussing, Kelsey. But you still brought Rodrigo De Paul. You got Luis Suarez. You have a team here. An older team, but you still have a team here. And once again, you still have Lionel Messi. I think Inter Miami, to some extent, Javier Mascherano, as critical as people have been of Javier Mascherano, I think they played it very well, kept the cards very close to their chest. I think that they understood that it doesn't really matter where you finish in the season. Just make it to the playoffs and then go accordingly. I think that this is where they flip the switch, and they're going to be very dangerous, and I really hope they don't, because they're going against Nashville SC, who is a really good team, very solid, very well balanced in my opinion. And honestly, I also believe that they have a great coach in BJ Callahan. I think that this is going to be a really good matchup between the two. They played in Decision Day, so it's just going to continue on that tension between the two. I think that this could very much be a good battle. Hopefully, it doesn't end in 2 games. I wanted to go to Game 3, especially because you have Lionel Messi and you got Sam Surridge, 2 guys that were competing for the Golden Boot, which obviously Messi won. I think that this is going to be a really good matchup. My heart tells me Nashville, but my brain tells me Inter Miami is going to move on to the next round. And the last one is Charlotte FC taking on NYCFC. 2 very evenly matched teams. I will say the advantage for Game 1 is on New York City FC, which is actually at Charlotte. And the reason why is because Wilfred Zaha will not be available as he got a red card on Decision Day. So that is going to be a very big thing for New York City. If they can win Game 1, go into Yankee Stadium and also get that result. Yeah. And I think exactly that's what's going to happen. I think New York City FC moves on to... So, basically the theme is I'm picking the first to 3rd seed, and then I'm picking the 5th seed on both... I know, crazy, right? But that's where I'm going. I think that it's going to be really fun. My matchup to watch is going to be Hellsville Derby. If you don't watch any of these games, watch FC Cincinnati versus Columbus Crew, the Hellsville Derby. That's going to be the one to watch. I guarantee you, that rivalry is one of the best rivalries in MLS, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. But yeah, MLS Cup Playoffs. I can't wait, man. Get excited. We'll go ahead and take a break and then go right into Players of the Week.
I love soccer, Peggy.
All right, guys. Players of the Week is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an amazing ticketing site for all things live events, from sporting events all the way to concerts. SeatGeek has you covered. It has a really easy system to follow. It uses colors and numbers. If the number is really high and super green, that means for those seats, for that event, for that price, you're getting a great deal. If it's very red and a very low score, that means that seat sucks. Go keep scrolling and you'll find a better deal. Me and Edward love the simplicity of SeatGeek. We use it for all the things that we go to. And if you're not sold just yet, if you guys use that code BellyUpSports at checkout, you'll save $20 off your first purchase. Once again, go to SeatGeek.com, use that code BellyUpSports. For first-time users, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek Life's an event. We have the tickets. My player of the week is Christoph Baumgartner, who scored 2 goals in RB Leipzig's 2-1 win against Hamburg. Really solid hit performance from them. So give it to them. Give it to them. And Edwards' player of the week is Erling Haaland, who scored 2 goals in Manchester City 2-0 victory against Everton. Erling Haaland, man, he is finding his form, and he's getting kind of dangerous. So we'll see if he continues. Remember, guys, at the end of the day, these names all get put in on a table to see who's going to win the 2025 Roosevelt Spencer's Player of the Year. So, congratulations to Christoph Baumgartner and Erling Haaland for being our Players of the Week. Once again, guys, go to SeatGeek.com, use that code BellyUpSports at checkout, and save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek Life's an event. We have the tickets. All right, guys, games to watch this weekend. Cruz Azul versus Monterrey, two of the best teams right now in Mexico, going at it again in Liga MX. We also have in Mexico Toluca versus Pachuca. Toluca looking really good. They're looking really good, looking to make it, looking for that repeat in Liga MX. Can they do it, or can Hachi's former club Pachuca slow them down for a bit? We also got Feyenoord versus PSV. It's going to be a really juicy matchup over there in the Eredivisie. And battle first and second in the Scottish Premier League, Hearts versus Celtic. Going to be a good one. Guys, check it out. In Ligue 1, we got RC Lens taking on Marseille. Really good matchup right there. And Olympique Lyon taking on Strasbourg, who had a really strong 3-3 draw against Paris Saint-Germain. So we'll see how that happens in Ligue 1. In Bundesliga, we got Borussia Dortmund taking on FC Cologne. Borussia Dortmund need a bounce back after losing their Klassiker. Can they do it here against Cologne? And Borussia Mönchengladbach, who still hasn't won a game, taking on Bayern Munich. We'll see what happens there. In the Serie A, we got Napoli taking Inter Milan, two teams that are fairly even right now in the standings, so we'll see what happens there. And Lazio taking on Juventus. We'll see what happens if the investigation is going to hinder that team by any means. In La Liga, we got Athletic Club Bilbao taking on Getafe. And El Clásico is this weekend. Real Madrid versus Barcelona, which obviously you guys know. The Jersey bet, there is a matchup here. It is going to be myself taking on Edward. So, El Clásico, one of the biggest rivalry in all of football. Make sure you guys catch it this weekend, man. It's going to be a good one. I am still not sure whether there's going to be like a watch party here in Houston. La Liga is kind of organizing it. And I really want to go because it's going to have Iker Casillas and Rivaldo. But Iker Casillas is going to be there, and I kind of really want to go meet him, but I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see. We'll see if I have the time. And in the Premier League, we got Chelsea taking on Sunderland and Arsenal taking on Crystal Palace. Obviously, these are all the matches that are being played this weekend. But if you guys want a good beginner's guide, I think gave you guys some good matches, so check it out. So, yeah. So we'll go ahead and take a break and then end this show.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at BellyUpSports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to episode 230. Is it 235 or 234? I believe it's 235. Thank you so much for listening to episode 235. I want to give a shout out to BellyUpSports, man. Check out their website, BellyUpSports.com. Lots of articles are constantly being written. Obviously, lots to talk about right now. You got World Series. The World Series is here. The World Series is here, guys. LA Dodgers versus somebody. I think it's actually because I can't tell you, man. It's Sunday. Tomorrow's more than likely going to be Game 7, which, it could be Toronto. It could be Seattle. If Seattle wins the ALCS and takes on the Dodgers, I really would like to see the Dodgers repeat. I would much rather see the Dodgers repeat than ever see the Seattle Mariners win a World Series. That's just all I'm gonna say. If it is Toronto, last thing I need is to see the Los Angeles Dodgers win another World Series, especially a back-to-back World Series, because I will never hear the end of it from Dodgers fans. So, yeah, there you go. There's my thoughts on the World Series. But also, obviously, NFL, college football is going on, man. There's lots to talk about here in America. So make sure you guys check out BellyUpSports. Check out all their content over there. Check them out on Instagram and X at BellyUpSports, and subscribe to them on their YouTube channel at BellyUpSports, man. Check them out. It's not your internet. It's your internet sports bar. So go check it out. Share, give them some love. Obviously, the other way you can find us is on GolzTV, GOLZ.TV. Lots of great content that's over there. If you guys are looking for soccer content made here in the US of A, well, Golz is your place to go. Check them out on the X at Golz_TV, GOLZ_TV, or on Instagram at Golz.TV, GOLZ.TV, GOLZ.TV. If you guys are looking for American content here, soccer content here in the US, that's where you're going to find it. Also, shout out to Roosevelt Spencer. He is the namesake of the Player of the Year award that we have. We love him so much, and it's because of all that he does for us, man. We love Spencer to death. He is just a very important part of what Insert Name FC is, and we can't do it without him. So, if you guys don't know, or you guys haven't heard, if you guys listen to the podcast version of this, the audio version of this podcast, you always hear intros and outros, and that is made by no one other than Roosevelt Spencer. We love his beats. We love his everything he does for us, man. He's just a legend, an icon for us, and so we love Spencer so much that he is the namesake of our Player of the Year award. So if you guys need some beat work, because I'll be honest with you, if you guys are going into podcasting, going into having a YouTube channel, hell, maybe you're an aspiring musical artist, you need beats, because copyright is a bitch. Sorry for cussing, Kelsey. So if you guys need some beats, hit up Roosevelt. He will take great care of you like he always does with us. Follow him on Instagram at ThatGuyDope. That's where you can message him. Send him a message. Hey, the guys from Insert Name FC sent me over here because I need some beat work. And he will take great care of you like he always does with us. I promise you that. So we love you, Spencer. Make sure you guys give him some love over there. With all that being said, man, thank you so much for listening to 235. Catch us next week for episode 236, where either me or Edward are going to be gloating about who won in El Clásico. So take care, guys.